Hi lovelies! Today I'm going to be talking about 10 BL dramas that you can use against your enemies to torture them. These are all the dramas that released in 2024 and you can literally invite your enemies over for a movie night and turn one of these shows on before locking them inside and running away. I promise you there is no revenge bigger than tormenting people you hate with these dramas. If it turns out that you genuinely like these dramas, then I'm sorry in advance and please just take this video with several grains of salt. So, should we start? Imagine having literally 12 BL couples in your series and still not being able to serve up a single decent BL story. Are you not ashamed of yourself, directors or producers? I mean, imagine effing up so bad that you don't have a single noteworthy BL story amongst 12 BL stories, all of which have nothing to do with each other and have different directors making them. In fact, each BL story was more torturous than the previous one. Not a single actor could act, not a single story could serve. The toxic storylines were borderline criminal and offensive rather than being dark and enticing. The milder storylines were boring, childish, and just plain stupid. The only mildly decent story that I can think of is probably the Earth and Bank one called Merry Go Round, but even that looked okay because the other ones were terrible. Jail, lock them all up. Mflow Entertainment, how are you still sitting there and producing one effed up BL after another? Even though none of the BL series you produce have ever became a hit. Each one of them have flopped harder than the previous one and you still keep churning them out every year like a case of bad influenza virus. Please stop producing BLs that make no sense, BLs that have no plot, the acting feels so forced all the time, the setting always looks fake like a studio, the dialogues are always cringy and the actors look like they are held at gunpoint and made to do stuff that they don't want to do at all. Time the series was a roller coaster of disaster. Play this show at my enemy's funeral, that's all I'm saying. I don't mind watching fluffy BL shows. In fact, occasionally I enjoy watching drama-free BLs that portray healthy relationships and values. But 1000 Years Old is not a rom-com. It's a series that probably belongs on TV channels like Nickelodeon or even Disney Channel because it's really childish. It's made for 5-year-olds and I doubt that 5-year-olds watch BL, so I have no freaking idea who the target audience of this BL series is. Probably people who fantasize about drinking blood. It's made for people with blood soup fetish. If you want to see a weirdo eating jellied blood day by day, bowl by bowl, then watch this show. A plot? Never heard of her. Romance? Never heard of her. Decent acting? Never heard of her. This gave old middle school annual day skit vibes and you cannot convince me otherwise. A secretly love? Please keep it a secret because no one in their right mind would want to watch your badly produced and badly subbed secret love. First of all, why are we in 2024 still watching Hazer and Junior love stories? I thought we left that in 2016. These engineer love stories keep on returning every single year like a case of bad herpes. I've never pegged Kim Mon as a good actor, but he was even worse in this series, and on top of that, the subtitles didn't even make any sense. Like, why would you release a BL for international fans when you can't even pay for a decent translator? Kim Mon's character had no redeeming qualities, and it's hard to understand why someone like the MC would have such a long crush on him. The chemistry was horrible, the humor was cringy, everything about this show is shit on top of more shit. The only thing I remember about Kiseki Chapter 2 is the twins kissing and licking each other's chest buttons, and that is absolutely not a good thing for any series. When people remember the nasty crap you showed instead of the actual plot, well, you know how bad you've effed up. So what they do in this series is go out sightseeing in Tokyo then come home to do the nasty. There is there is no other plot besides this. Sightseeing and sex, well, I wouldn't mind seeing that as well if the NC was good and not right in the viewer's face, so obviously choreographed. There is something really wrong within the minds of people who own Naina because they can't seem to differentiate between BL and straight up gay softcore. Like, is giving us a decent story so damn hard? For the nth time, please stop producing any more BLs. Two Worlds explains how to further complicate an already confusing transmigration story. I think this was just a story of Cram traveling to and fro from two worlds and just blatantly choosing a guy who was hotter. Like, it literally made no sense for Cram to be so in love with Poofa from the first world, but then immediately switching up when he saw a hotter and bigger thigh in the second world. I kept watching this series for the second couple because their relationship was so sexy and realistic, but I couldn't get past Cram's flared nostrils that took over his entire face and his bad acting that made me want to shake Tai and Poofa violently and ask them why the hell are they so obsessed and fighting over someone like Cram. I was praying hard for Poofa and Tai to end up together, but obviously it wasn't gonna happen. The whole story is just so messy and chaotic, it will definitely make your enemies cry. How do you title a series with the word love in it and then proceed to have no actual love in the series? This series is quite possibly the worst series on this list. It's the way I wanted to keep slapping Mew until he started to either speak Korean or at least try and pretend that the others were speaking a different language than him. How can the whole show be so unrealistic that you own a doggy daycare but there literally isn't a dog or a cat inside? What the actual post-apocalyptic fuck? This series has all the qualities of a terrible BL. No plot, bad acting, no romance, no production value. If you are still expecting Vuju Bakery to be good after watching how Love is Like a Cat turned out, please know that you are setting yourself up for a very bad heartbreak. Oh My God Vampire should be renamed as Oh My God Not Again. I think Longley and Frank together are a bad omen for any show they work together in. Because if they are appearing together as a couple in any show, you just know that it will flop harder than Katy Perry's new single. I get that it was a vampire series, but even in fantasy shows there is a sense of realism. But the plot of the series is literally so unrealistic that everything is chaotic and nothing makes sense from the plot point of view. There were too many couples crammed into an 8-episode show and none of their stories could be delivered properly. I'm more tolerant when it comes to dupecon and non-con scenes if there is enough context provided, but even I couldn't feel comfortable watching a man do it with a sleeping person. It looked atrocious, criminal and disgusting, and it doesn't matter if they were in a relationship. This was a horrible mess of a series and I'm so thankful to the BL gods that we don't have to see Longley and Frank pairing anymore cause they have split up as a ship. Sunset Vibes has totally killed the good vibes I had for Moss and Bank. Not only the series is atrocious, their acting is atrocious and their chemistry is just mind-blowingly dull this time around. I have no clue how they managed to make Big Dragon a hit because I can put my hand on my head and say that these are not the same people who wowed the whole fandom with their charisma and chemistry in Big Dragon. The series is just mind-numbingly boring, dull and depressing to watch. Like they have put me off Saturdays because of their horrific series. I wake up in a bad mood on Saturdays thinking about how the series is going to spoil my uplifted mood and throw it into the gutter. It is so freaking hard for me to believe that these are the same people who cosplay as a couple all day all night long on social media but cannot for the life of them produce one single scene with believable chemistry. Let me tell you, good clothes and good makeup count for absolute shit if you don't know how to act or deliver your character. To be honest, I don't completely put the blame on them because the script is a total disaster with no substance or value, and so are the other characters and actors in this show. Whenever I hear the words Khundad, I want to vomit my guts out in secondhand embarrassment. Is Battle of the Writers quite possibly the worst written novel to ever exist, or just the screen adaptation is bad? Because seriously, the adaptation is doing no favors to the novel writer and I feel bad for them. This series makes no sense at all. Like literally nothing in it makes sense. They just do whatever in each episode and the previous episode has no connection to it. Dressing up as cultivators and doing a parallel storyline is possibly the worst decision they could make because they look horrible performing the wuxia story, and it literally feels like they're mocking the wuxia danme stories. In other words, it looks like more like a parody than the actual love story. Like, why do you have to replicate the Chinese culture and make it look horrible with your bad acting skills? Do you even know how much sacrifice is needed in the pursuit of immortality and spiritual enlightenment? How can you dance around and act goofy wearing those cultivator outfits? It's an insult to the tradition and to wuxia novel enthusiasts. Other than that, even the stories of the 5 writers is bad and unfunny. None of those 5 characters look like they could even publish a paragraph in the reader submission section of newspapers, let alone best-selling novels. I think it's time Tutor and Yim stop ruining any more BLs because they suck massively. I think I've given you enough options to scare away your enemies. What do you think of these BLs? Let me know in the comments. Bye lovelies.